Welcome to another episode of Chasing Labels. This is spy number 42. I am your host, Stephen Billings, and with me, as always, is your other host, Andrew Cabral. How you doing, man?
Doing good. We're back here for number 42. We're in the big 40s. I don't know why I'm always
when I think 42, I think Jackie Robinson. That's my only sports reference I'm going to be able to give.
Good sports reference. But it is spy number 42, as we say here on Chasing Labels. And we have another guest this week, Stephen. Who do we have?
Yes, we do. Well, we if you're definitely, especially if you're somebody that follows the Twitter film space, you're going to probably have seen this guy post some stuff. I really enjoy his memes. I check when I'm checking stuff first thing in the morning. A lot of times I get good mornings from this guy here that we're going to talk to today, and that is Mr. Dave Eves. How you doing, man?
I am doing great. Thank you both so much for having me on the show. I was going to say, you probably, if you've not heard me on a podcast, which you may not have, I've not done as many recently, you probably know me from my GIFs, because I tweet those
I said,
at least once a day.
You can tell how much I don't know about social media. I said memes.
I try to make them memes.
Yeah.
So, someone has to do those classic film memes, you know, that content that no one really wants. That no one knew they needed, that I put out there occasionally, and occasionally the world reciprocates by liking.
Yeah, and I've noticed lately it's I think you've been watching a lot of Zatoichi.
So I haven't been watching a lot of Zatoichi. I watched the final Zatoichi film starring, oh my goodness, now that I'm on the podcast, I can't remember his name. I'm looking at the box. It was right in front of me. Shintaro Katsu, that's his name. So it's the final one that he made in 1989. He did the original string of 25 films in the 60s and 70s that Criterion put a great box set out there on. If anyone knows me outside of movie memes and movie gifs, you know that I'm a Criterion and Blu-ray nerd. Obviously, probably what brought me here today in the first place. So I have to plug Criterion. But I can't remember who even put this out. It's not a great
I was
disc.
literally
It's
just
pretty
going
bare
to
bones.
say Criterion's collection, which I think everybody knows about, of course Dave does as well, doesn't have that final film in it. And it's so frustrating because you have to get some
for
type
anyone
of...
who has not seen it, you're not missing much. It's not the best.
But once you get...
once you're
like, nearly 30 films deep, how much ground are you covering at that point?
This is true. And this quite literally, was just, they took every single plot line that happens in every single Zatoichi movie, of which there's only 4 plot lines, and shoved them all into one thing. But no, I actually had a movie night with my brother-in-law and father-in-law. We drank sake, we ate sushi, we watched Zatoichi. And then, as a palate cleanser, we watched Ron in 4K.
Oh,
so
my goodness.
Dude, hey,
good movie
speaking
night.
of that, and that's a good segue real quick before we get back to you. So in our Facebook group, we have a private Facebook group that anybody can come and join. We'll let you in. We did our first polls with the group, and what we're doing is we're doing a new monthly show called The Unwatched Pile. And with the Unwatched Pile, of course, a lot of that is about blind buys. You know, a lot of times as collectors, we just buy things because something looks cool or somebody suggested it, and so we're polling from our groups on usually about 5 at a time from each me and Andrew of films we haven't watched in our collections, and the group votes on it. And one of the first ones I have to watch is Ron, which is the Studio Canal 4K. So
Yeah.
That
is actually my favorite Kurosawa film.
Okay, cool.
So
Yeah, it's good.
And the 4K presentations, very nice. I'm sure anyone that's a Blu-ray collector has some mixed feelings about Studio Canal discs, but this is actually a pretty good one. I obviously hope at some point it comes back to Criterion. I think it'd be a good 4K release for Criterion, and I'd gladly double dip to have the wacky C on the cover there.
Oh, yeah. Criterion nuts. They just love their wacky C. They want everything to be back. They want the Grand Illusion back over there.
That's a grail.
Yeah, that's a grail right there.
That's the holy grail. Yeah.
But yes, so Dave, as we always do with our guests here, we want to get to the origins here. We want to go back to where that love of film began for you. So, were you born and was there movies in the room? Were there? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Good.
So I'll approach this from the physical media enjoyer. I'm a child of the 80s, grew up in the 90s. I like to believe that when you're that age, you probably are around a lot of VHS tapes. My house was no exception. Probably most houses had fewer. My dad is a physical media collector when it comes to music. He has thousands upon thousands of classical music CDs. So that's probably where a little bit of this comes from a genetic standpoint. But if there was something you were going to watch a lot, you might as well buy it. That way you're not renting it all the time. From an economic standpoint, makes sense. I mean, it also kind of makes sense if you're going to buy something and never watch it, so it can be on your shelf. I'm sure that doesn't apply to anyone listening right now, certainly not myself. But no, movies were always something to watch. I'll say I probably didn't get into them like as seriously until I was older. But when I got older, I wanted to make movies. I went to film school. And when you start to want to make movies, you also start to want to like learn more about other art forms out there. And one of the first ways, again, I'm looping it right back into Criterion. They had back to Kurosawa too. They had a great box set back in the, what would that have been? The early to mid 2000s of 4 Kurosawa films. Wanted to get it because it had Hidden Fortress. I love Star Wars. I knew that Hidden Fortress and Star Wars had that connection, or Star Wars was a loose remake of that. So that's kind of how my DVD buying days started. And then after buying DVDs for a while, realizing Blu-ray was on the horizon and not being able to afford an HD TV, being a poor college student, I held back for a little bit. But once the Blu-ray obsession began, there was no going back. If you can see in the video that we're having right now, you can see that it's a massive, growing, out of control, spiraling obsession at this point.
Very much so. It never ends.
Yes.
No, it doesn't.
No.
And so what would you say some of the early films that were kind of like foundational for you that you would say are maybe some of your favorites?
Ooh, foundational, I'll go back to Star Wars again. There was a point in my life where I was watching the original Star Wars trilogy every weekend. Something you can only do, I guess you could probably do it with Disney Plus now if you really wanted to, but something back then you could only do if you had them on VHS, the original theatrical editions. And I mean, as people grow up, there's certain tastes that change. I mean, things that have always been favorites of mine. I've always liked The Matrix. That was probably one of the first DVDs that I bought.
That's one of my foundational films for me.
It's a first-time DVD buy for me. I had the old Snapper Case DVD. Oh,
yep.
Snapper Cases, don't miss them. Don't miss them at all.
I'm weirdly nostalgic for them, though.
I still have a few in the collection because some of the movies never got upgrades, or I just haven't upgraded them yet. So the Snapper Case is still there, and they get stuck on everything.
Oh yeah, it's flimsy. It's a poor design, but I don't know, that cardboard plastic monstrosity. I don't know.
I gotta keep a couple
to
of them.
degree.
I gotta keep a couple of them just because. Yeah,
gotta keep them around.
Yeah. And so what about any like when you got more into like what Criterion had to offer, like art films? What was some of the first things that drew you to Criterion?
Probably, I mean, obviously the Kurosawa set. I probably unconsciously had a few Criterions with Wes Anderson. Yeah. Wes Anderson was also a big thing that I was into. I'm still into now. He's still making movies that I love. That was a big thing then at that late teens, early 20s point in my life. Trying to think beyond that if there's anything else foundational from a Blu-ray collector standpoint. Obviously, as I've gotten older, I've grown to love filmmakers like Ingmar Bergman. He is now my favorite filmmaker. And I mean, you can go through that from, buying old DVDs of The Seventh Seal or Wild Strawberries up into the most recent Blu-ray set. And I'm kicking myself. I still don't have the 4K. Did they release the 4K one in the UK with BFI? I'm kind of hoping Criterion.
I think so, yeah. I'm pretty sure that's out by now. Andrew's looking it up right now. I can see it.
Yeah, I'll look it up.
But
this is what's interesting for the podcast viewers. Hearing us research things in real time.
That's typing, yes.
There you go.
Yeah, no, I think honestly with me I think for a lot of us the Criterion collection was an entry point for boutique labels, and even before I even realized boutique labels was a thing, I think I had the first couple I had gotten was The Killing, from Kubrick, and then the. What was the other ones I had? I think I might have had a Wes Anderson. I might have had like Rushmore or one of them early ones. So yeah, I'm with you. I think I might even had a Terrence Malick in there. Maybe was one of the first couple ones I had, like Thin Red Line or something.
Yeah, ironically, my first 2 Blu-rays I can remember vividly is Barnes & Noble sale 2011. I bought, coincidentally, you just mentioned them, I bought the Darjeeling Limited and I bought the Thin Red Line. Well, I think the first 2 Blu-rays I bought at that sale. But beforehand, I had bought... a plethora. Amazon had a sale, I think, in like 2010, and I bought, well, randomly, I bought like Wings of Desire. I bought the Yojimbo and Sanjuro 2, double feature box set on Blu-ray. I bought, I can't remember the other ones I bought, but there was so many that I bought just randomly. But those other 2 were really prominent when I started knowing what Criterion was and paying more attention to their line. Before that, DVD-wise, I don't know. Terry Gilliam's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I felt like everyone kind of had that in their collection back in the 2000s, and as well as Brazil.
What about Armageddon and The Rock?
Oh, I have those. Actually,
Do you have them?
I mean,
I have. So this is my somewhat sad story. We had a video store in the Philadelphia area up until the end of last year. Viva Video, which I would religiously go to and rent things. They sadly went out of business. But my wife was actually the one that picked this out because she saw The Rock on Criterion as part of their back stock that they were selling, and we had to walk away with it.
Oh yeah, I think I saw the Armageddon version Criterion in Walmart one time, and I was like, this had to have been an accident. Somebody was like, why am I getting this DVD here? I can get the Blu-ray, and they like left the Criterion in Walmart or something. I don't know. But...
Ironically, I think the reason why you got to keep those 2, Armageddon and The Rock, is because those special features I don't think are on the regular releases from the studios, not even the Blu-ray releases. So it's like if you're a completist and you want all the special features for The Rock and Armageddon, you have to have them.
I need to know. I need to know everyone's opinions when they were making Armageddon.
So when it comes to, you said you went to film school. So what was, I know you said you wanted to be a filmmaker. So where did that lead you? Was you able to make anything or?
I've made short films. I think the fact that I tweet a lot and I'm on Twitter a lot shows that I was not entirely successful in pursuing those dreams. At least not yet.
Yeah,
I'm still
keep
working
doing
towards
it, man.
I have I have the equipment. Short films are an expensive hobby.
Oh yeah,
and I have plenty of expensive hobbies, including buying Blu-rays. So it always makes it a little tough to get stuff done. But no, I have a YouTube channel. If anyone listening is curious to see anything that I've done, please feel free to reach out. I'd be more than happy to share those links with you.
Awesome. I would like to see them things. Yeah. I would, yeah.
Sure.
But because I'm somebody that would, and I think Andrew as well. We both are somebody that would love to dabble in filmmaking. I've done it. I think I've done it a little bit. I've done some sketch stuff with friends, and I've never really tried anything too serious. I'm more in the writing phase right now, but yeah, I mean,
writing is cheap.
It's cheap, but it's the most time consuming.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It very much
takes
so.
the most effort.
Yeah.
You see a lot of people out there that decide to put the least effort into the cheap part and put a lot of effort into the expensive part, and it shows.
Oh yeah, definitely. And so, when it comes to a type of films you would, being that I haven't seen any of your stuff yet, what stuff do you usually, when it comes to like, genres or things, what do you usually like to write about? Or
so when it comes to what I've produced so far, it's typically been comedy. Okay. I definitely think that in terms of what kind of got that foundation, you'll see a lot of things like Wes Anderson. Comedy was kind of what led me into it. That ability to make so many people laugh, so many people enjoy something. And I think over the years, in terms of things that I've written for myself, I've drifted a little bit further away from that, especially probably because of some of the other films I've been watching, some of the other influences I've had. I've drifted a little bit more towards drama. Things like sci-fi are always on my mind in terms of things I'd like to write. But talking about expensive, science fiction, super expensive. Yeah. So it makes it hard to produce those.
Yeah, honestly, like when I'm thinking about like the few ideas I really like that I've come up with, typically I find myself trying to drive myself towards more like horror oriented things because they're usually on the cheaper end, and not necessarily like straight up like a slasher or anything, but more like what you're seeing a lot today, where they're more like dramatic pieces with like a kind of like a horror twist to them, like what A24 does or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
and lots of directors get their start in horror.
Yeah.
It's a great place to start, and a lot of room, like you said, inexpensive compared to other genres. Great opportunities to express yourself artistically. It's a genre that I'm glad is getting a lot more recognition lately. But and I'm sure, as we're going to talk about later today with some of the things that you sent me that we wanted to talk about, I wish that some of these older things got the recognition they deserve. But I'd say that some things getting 4K or Blu-ray releases from the archives is a good thing as well.
Yeah. Andrew, anything you want to talk about with our man here?
Oh yeah, I'm just circling back to what we were talking about, the Ingmar Bergman sets. BFI is putting out Blu-ray sets, and they're putting out, I think, 4 volumes, and they put out 2 so far that came out last year. So it looks like they're slowly...
Yes, and one of them had some gaps from the Criterion set.
Yeah, they don't look to be as comprehensive as that set, which is the definitive set. The Bergman on film set. That thing is massive. It was such a touchstone change of the guard, I think, for Criterion when it came to their releases, that it signaled like, okay, this is like big time, what we have to offer here. Because like we've said on here before, and I know Dave probably knows as well, there's nothing quite like Bergman. Dave, in going on that line, what was your first intro to Bergman?
So I have an interesting introduction to Bergman. It was in film school. It was in a European studies class. It was Persona, and I fell asleep.
Oh, wow. That's a tough one to start off
with. And not
with.
just I fell asleep, the entire class fell asleep. And it's funny because we all somehow, because I remember looking around, be like, everyone's sleeping. I'm going to sleep. I'm tired. And everyone knows, and for whatever reason, that room that we would watch movies in was like the perfect incubator for falling asleep if you're a college student that keeps bad hours anyways. The chairs were uncomfortable. It was hot in there and the lights were low. For whatever reason, always like, you got to fight to stay awake. And sometimes you just get a movie good enough to do so. And later I would go back and rewatch Persona, and it's one of, if not my favorite Bergman movies, but my first experience, sadly, was falling asleep during Persona.
Yeah.
It's certainly
it's understandable.
Not only that, but it's a tough one to start out with if you're getting into Bergman for the first time. It's his most Bergman-esque movie on so many surreal levels. I mean, my philosophy, I don't know if I'll ask this to Dave itself, when it comes to big-time directors, I always recommend starting off small and early and then building your way up to the more well-known stuff.
See, I'm more of a jump into the deep end. If you say you want to start with Bergman, I say, why not go for Persona? Why not watch Cries and Whispers? Try it. Because typically, for me, oftentimes the directors that really get me hooked from their first film, it's not from their early work. It's from their work that's the most steeped in their style. And then sort of working my way backwards, to me, has always been a more rewarding experience. But I don't think there's a wrong way of going about things. And the great thing about that set, it's not... It has the instructions for if you want to go chronologically, but I think it has a really good layout for how to go through it, especially if you're new to Bergman. It does some of the classics early on, like Smiles of the Summer Night is the first thing in there. It does a few of his earlier things. I'm trying to think I think Wild Strawberries is pretty early on there. I think Persona is pretty early on there. It's been a while since I've gone through the order, because typically I'm like, what am I in the mood for tonight? This
exactly,
one. Let's go.
Exactly, and that's actually a very interesting philosophy, because that's actually the way I approached Alfred Hitchcock, is that I went to his most well-known stuff first, Vertigo, Psycho, North by Northwest, and then I went back to the beginning, and then you see all of the influences and all the stuff he was trying out early on. You see the perfection of it in his more prominent work, and
sometimes doing it that way, because, I mean, obviously I probably would say I took a similar approach to Hitchcock, because I watched a few when I was younger. Typically the most notable ones, the things that are going to be shown on Turner Classic Movies more often. And then you go back and watch something like The Lady Vanishes, and that's one of my favorites. Yeah. It's almost like this weird surprise. Like, oh, he was doing all these interesting things before he came into Hollywood. This movie's great. And that was a blind buy of a Blu-ray. Sometimes one of the best ways to experience a movie is just to be completely taken off guard by something you may not have, you may have been looking forward to it, but maybe not expected too much from it.
Oh, yeah. And just, I guess, back, going off of that, have there been blind buys in your recent history that really took you, took you aback? Was like, wow, I can't believe I didn't know, about this movie, or I'm glad I bought it, or anything like that?
Well, I blind buy so much, so that's a very
broad
big
question.
Right? It's a broad question. I'm literally pulling up my Letterboxd right now.
Yeah, it's tough, and we're really starting to get into that now. Like I said, with the polls we're doing with our group, I'm plugging that again because I would like to have more people getting in there and voting. And the other things that we're going to be touching on, I'm doing Ron, and I'm doing what's the other Citizen Above Suspicion.
No, it's
Investigation of a Citizen Above Suspicion.
Investigation of a Citizen Above Suspicion.
That's a fun one.
That's another one I haven't seen. And then Andrew's got to watch Solaris from the Criterion.
And The Last Metro.
And The Last Metro, yeah.
Yeah, Tarkovsky's one of those directors that I'm always afraid to dive into because it's so unique. Like
my jump
I watched
into
Stalker, and I was like,
going to say my jump into Tarkovsky was Stalker.
Yeah, I started with like Ivan's Childhood, and then I went to like Andrei Rublev, which is, my goodness, what a massive film, and then Stalker, and it's like, what a career of just monumental films. So
I'm going to completely retract what I said earlier. Probably the best place to start with Tarkovsky is Solaris, because it's the most accessible plot, but that doesn't mean it's the most accessible filmmaking. He still has all of his stylistic intrigue there, but it's just maybe the kind of story. I mean, I think Stalker has a very straightforward story too, but I love Stalker. I love his style. He's a kind of filmmaker you just got to get on the right wavelength with, and some people can and some people can't, and that's okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that kind of goes along with the Tarkovsky because a lot of his films are pretty long. Can you typically sit through them all in one take? Because that's what I try to do. Or do you have to split them up?
I believe the first time I watched Solaris, I did have to split it up into 2 nights, but I watched that a very long time ago. Now, if I'm watching one of his films, like Andrei Rublev, I've seen a couple times, and both times I watched it straight through. I try my best when it comes to longer movies to not have to split it into 2 nights, knowing that I may have to if I start getting sleepy, especially if I'm putting a movie on late. But I try to keep those 2.5 hour, 3 hour movies to nights when I know, like, okay, I'm going to be able to make it for the long haul here.
Yeah, I remember.
Otherwise, I'll probably just be asleep in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, I remember challenging myself, and I decided I was like, okay, these 2 movies are going to take up my whole day. I was like, I'm going to start my day, and I'm going to watch Brighter Summer Day, which is like, I think almost 4 hours?
4 hours,
And then I decided to watch Stalker after that. And it was...
That's a long day.
That's a day.
It was grueling. I barely made it through Stalker. I was like, God, this is... Oh, my God. I kind of want to take a nap, but I was like, no, I'm going to do it. And I did it. I don't know that I had the best experience. I think Brighter Summer Day I really liked. And then I was like, okay, now I took like maybe a 15-minute break. And then I was like, okay, let's do the Stalker. And I got through about the first hour, and I was like, okay, I'm feeling like turning this off right now. But I want to keep going because it's interesting. So, but yeah, it's tough sometimes. The older we get and the more responsibilities we take on and things, fitting in these longer films is like a chore. Like I'm like,
yeah. Well, especially films that are, in a different language, so you have to read subtitles and stuff like that. And the filmmaking, when it comes to European filmmaking or filmmaking on the others in any part of the world, is so different compared to a lot of the things we see here and a lot of the things we're used to seeing here. So it's a whole adjustment. But man, it is a rewarding ride if you do take it. Dave, I also wanted to ask you, since you're a frequent kind of night owl when it comes to watching films, I've always noticed that about you. And do you notice, I don't know if this is just me, but I'm glad that there's someone here who kind of has done it too. Is it a different experience watching films super late at night than it is during the day? I just always,
Oh, 100%.
I always felt like it was a difference.
Because there's nothing else going on. It's not like there's a world out there that you're neglecting or anything. Although I will say, if I'm going to the movies, my favorite time to actually be in a theater is for that matinee, because it's closing out the world around you. But when you're home, that's so much harder to do. And watching a movie late at night, it's almost like it's just you and the movie. And I think that's the ideal experience. That's what the theater creates for you. And I don't know. I just love that sort of, all right, everything else from the day is behind me now. It's just me and the movie now, and then sleep. It's the only thing between me and sleep.
It feels like such a surreal experience when it's 2-3 o'clock in the morning and you put on a surreal film. And like Dave said, it's just you and cinema, and you're just going along on this almost existential life journey. It's depending on what you're watching, and it's unique. And I just didn't know if I was the only one experiencing that.
No, and I'm a night owl by nature. That's when I like to watch movies. I don't know if I like to watch them because of that experience, or if I get that experience because it's just when I watch them. But I definitely know what you mean. And also, I'm going to circle back to a question you asked before, because I found it in my Letterboxd. A recent blind buy that blew me away was Thomas Vinterberg's The Celebration.
Ooh,
again, another Criterion. That was one that I had heard of before, and I had seen a few scenes from it in film school, but didn't realize it until they put the movie on. But especially that being the only Dogma 95 movie that I've watched, anyone that does not know what that style is, it's very minimalistic. It's very unique. That entire style just yanked me into the movie even more. It's a very, very realistic kind of experience, and probably my favorite new watch of the year that I've had so far.
Nice. When it comes
I was
to
just
your
gonna say, Stephen,
go ahead.
We covered it when it was announced, and I did get a chance to watch it because I can't remember where it was streaming. I don't know if it was on the Criterion channel or someplace else, but yeah, we talked about Dogma 95, that whole movement and how unique it is, and there was Lars von Trier and Thomas Vinterberg, directors like that, and the celebration's so unique. It's such guerrilla filmmaking. It's so broken down. It feels like Italian neorealism, but even more so. It's so unique.
Mm-hmm. And coming from the perspective of someone that likes to and wants to make more movies, it's always great to see these ways that filmmakers find to cut costs. And even though I'm sure that this wasn't relatively cheap to make, but still it has an aesthetic that is a little bit more replicatable on a low budget than if you're only exclusively watching superhero movies, for example.
Yeah, and it's funny, like with the way technology is today, you see some people trying to replicate, film, types of film from previous years, but doing it, on purpose. People trying to replicate the look of film on digital, or the look of video, or and it's like it takes some of that magic away when they're trying to do it. I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's kind of the same discussion you could have about and I guess this directly goes to some more Criterion stuff, but filmmakers tinkering around with their movies years later. Specifically like the Miller's Crossing thing that we've recently we've talked about. How do you feel about all that kind of filmmakers going back and changing scenes and trimming things and messing with aesthetics, and what do you think about all that stuff?
It is a double-edged sword. It's weird. On one hand, it's theirs, and it's not like they're completely ruining the movie. I bet you that if you sat down the average person that had seen In the Mood for Love before and showed them the new restoration, they wouldn't know. I bet you most people wouldn't be able to tell. And I do think that it's opened up a little bit of a door, because a lot of people are now trying to look and find things that are wrong. Like, I'll use Memories of a Murder, for example. A lot of people were accusing that of having the Criterion Teal treatment, when realistically, that is how it looked when you saw it in the theater. But that's not what the first DVD looked like, because the DVD was mastered incorrectly. And when it comes to color, it's very... It's easy for someone's first experience with the movie to still be wrong. To me, it's the same as if you watched a movie for the first time on VHS back in the day in a pan and scan edition and never knew that it's supposed to be in a wider aspect ratio. Did you still watch the movie? Of course you did. Is that your favorite version? Maybe it is. Does that make you wrong for liking that more? Probably not. But it's all within the right of the filmmaker in order to put it then back into the aspect ratio that is their choice, whether it was how you were first exposed to it or not. Now, I know that that's different from taking the original color correction, even from a theatrical perspective, and updating it with newer technology. However, it doesn't sit with me as wrong as completely tinkering and destroying a movie, like, say, a George Lucas would be with Star Wars, adding things that would have been impossible to add back in 1977 when that was first made, versus Miller's Crossing with just some minor edits here that change the runtime by a couple degrees. Again, that's the kind of thing, because I had seen that movie once a few years ago, watched it again. I didn't know there was any changes to it. I didn't know that this was a director's cut, because it's not explicitly stated. It isn't something that I was even aware of until someone pointed it out to me. And at that point where it's so minimal that the average person could miss it, it's not going to bother me as much. But I also completely understand if it's someone's favorite movie and a moment that they loved is gone. I just don't know if that was the case here with that release
I
itself.
think there was like literally a line that was cut from a scene that
yes.
So I think that
and I looked at that, and I'm going to be controversial here. I think they made the right choice this time around. I think the scene's funnier without the line.
Yeah,
okay.
and that's my argument against it, and not really against it, just I guess you could say just the other side of the coin, because I kind of agree. I agree with you. I agree that the filmmaker should always have the final choice, and whatever they wanted is what it should be. But part of me also thinks that, going back and tinkering with things has a negative effect of that when you made the choices, that was the choice, that's when it was made. You made the choices with what you had at the time, and that's what it needs to be. Now, of course, like when it comes to budget reasons and things, sometimes I can understand wanting to go back and obviously clean up a film, because we love seeing all these new films on physical media being cleaned up and looking the best they've ever looked. But like
restorations and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's always great. But like when we're talking about changing the tone of a movie by cutting lines or or even like dramatically changing the color grading, that kind of bothers me somewhat. Like it's like, at least, as Andrew has said, at least give us the options. Like if you're going to change the movie that much, give us this version and the new version, and we'll be good.
Yeah. Well,
and I don't disagree with you. And it's definitely a fine line between restoration and reimagination. Yeah. And I mean, there's some people out there that don't think movies should be restored. They just want a clean master from the original 35 negative. They don't want anyone messing with it. They want it to look bad, and they just want to enjoy it that way. There was someone on some Criterion forum back in the day that was like, they should include both the restoration and the original camera scan on the disc. I'm like, really? Do you really want to pay?
Yeah, it's like
so much extra for that.
Have you seen some of the restoration, pre and post footage? Some of those original things are so badly damaged that they needed.
That's one of my favorite things to watch. If that's a special feature, that's always the first thing I watch. The restoration demonstration.
I always remember seeing the one for the Red Shoes on the original Blu-ray, and just them going through the massive restoration that was undertaken for that film. And I haven't watched the 4K yet. I actually don't have it yet, but I can only imagine how amazing the 4K looks compared to the Blu-ray now. But the old original, I mean, the way it looked way back when, so much damage in it.
Yeah.
And
And the 4K,
No,
the
no,
4K
I meant like
looks great. And it is a slightly different, and here's the thing, it's a slightly different restoration than from the Blu-ray. It's not just the Blu-ray in HDR. The contrast is slightly different. And I think that kind of, for me, goes back to the original point that a restoration can 100% be perfect because you're going to be getting the stylistic or artistic or the opinion of someone being poured into this that is going to differ slightly. No matter how hard they try to make it match the original, you could have two different restoration artists that are both at the top of their field perform the same restoration trying to make it look as close to the original as possible, and there still be differences.
Unfortunately, I think when we're talking about, all of these films, Criterion or whomever, a lot of these films are decades upon decades old, and the original people who worked on these films are no longer with us.
They're gone.
The directors, cinematographers, editors, production design people. So it's hard to get,
You have to make that judgment
and
call.
it's like if somebody in 2022 is going to have a different aesthetic eye compared to someone in 1952. You don't know, what was the intention of the original filmmakers of the time. That's a hard thing to guess, and especially when you're talking about some of these big time films. And but I think at the end of the day, we're getting these films in the best conditions that they can possibly be in. And there was an article that came out a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if anyone saw it, anyone listening or any of you guys. I think it was Scorsese's Restoration Foundation, was saying that 90% of films from like the silent era are gone. There's like a large percentage of films like pre-1950 or 1960 are gone because they just, weren't kept around. And, we've always talked about how important, preservation and archiving and all that stuff is. And I think as physical media is going along, that becomes more and more important.
Yeah, I mean it.
I agree.
And
to that point, like a VHS tape, that's going to degrade eventually. A Blu-ray or a DVD or a 4K disc should, in theory, last far longer as long as it doesn't start getting disc rot.
Yeah.
So by owning these things, you have some more longevity and you provide more longevity for these films overall as well. And it's a shame how the past had a little bit of an out with the old, in with the new mantra, especially when it comes to those silent films that were just kind of burned for the silver nitrate, things that you'll never see again, sadly, unless it's hiding in someone's attic.
Oh yeah, and then just kind of, the nitrate will just like spontaneously combust, and these film archives are just gone. And it's just like that's why a lot of the times a lot of the films we cover here, they'll put like a little thing in there saying like best surviving film elements or something like that. Or it's from an interpositive or whatever, because a lot of the original Camernegas are just completely gone, and it's just like these are the best these films are ever going to look. And then it's just really, really sad because sometimes a lot of the older films can't get these Blu-ray releases because there's not much of a difference between the DVD and the Blu-ray, so it's not feasible or anything like that.
Yeah, and so when it comes to your collecting habits, you say you do a lot of blind buys and things like that. Do you have to justify this to your significant other? Do they bother you a lot about your buying habits?
She knows that it's my thing, and as long as I stay within some amount of reason, she's okay with it. She loves horror movies, so I just like to sprinkle in some horror movies that I think she'll like too, and I think that's that keeps things on an even keel. Yeah. But she knows when it comes to Criterion, I buy every Criterion Blu-ray that comes out. So she was a little worried when they announced 4K, but that hasn't posed an issue yet.
Yeah, my wife isn't too, like, she knows what I do. She knows that I buy a lot of movies. She sees the stuff coming in the mail. She's not, like, too educated on, like, the labels and things like that. But, we're about to have a baby, and, I'm aware I have to calm down a little bit. And, it's it's bittersweet, but of course I got a child that I can now show a bunch of movies to. So that's what I'm excited about. And the many nights I'll be up with you guys. I'll be up at late at night holding the baby, and we can watch movies together. And I can brainwash her, and and
it's never too early to watch Persona.
It's not. It'll be the first thing I show her. But along with that, when it because I think a lot of us collectors, especially guys like us that would consider ourselves to be more like cinephiles, and we like kind of are open to anything, where we watch a lot of different art films or maybe even trashy stuff. And do you have a hard time with like explaining movies to friends, or do you have like other friends that are like into the same stuff as you? Because that's a hard thing for me, I know.
So most of the people that I talk with about movies, I talk to them online.
Okay.
That's why it's great to have things like Twitter and even Facebook groups. It's great to kind of have that. When I'll bring back Viva Video. Viva Video is always great because that's a chance to talk to people in person that also love Blu-rays, also love movies like that. And I still talk to those guys occasionally online. I don't see them as much in person anymore, but definitely the friends that I hang out with. I sometimes will describe a movie I watched just to see the shock on their face, especially if I've watched something wacky. I'm trying to even think about something wacky I've watched recently. I'm sure everyone, not to turn Sallow into a joke or anything, because it's actually a good movie, has a good statement to make about fascism. But I'm sure anytime you try to explain that to a friend, they're going to look at you like you have 5 heads.
Yeah, that's kind of a go-to with Criterion people. That or Jellyfish Eyes.
I've not watched that one yet.
I haven't watched it either, but every time I know Aaron at Criterion now, he always brings up Jellyfish Eyes as like the worst movie in the collection.
It'll probably be the one that will go unwatched the longest on my shelves.
Yeah. Well, Dave, the only last thing I was maybe going to bring up to you was I noticed you did have a blog. Is that just something you just didn't have time for anymore? The cinema versus Dave versus cinema. Like what happened with that?
I just didn't. I guess I let it slip.
Oh, come on, man.
I let it slip in terms of everything else going on. I prioritize making GIFs, I guess, instead of writing things down. No, it's something I should pick up more. I think a big thing for me. Writing about movies, I think having gone to film school still feels a little bit like homework.
It does,
and that can be a little bit of a brain hump that you have to get over sometimes. So that's probably why that has not been updated in 5.
I was going to say, I think the last thing was 2016, something like that. Yeah.
6 years.
Yeah.
Not that
Ironically, that's the same for my blog as well. It's 2016. Because once I started...
What? Filmmakers go years between making movies. What's wrong with being a blogger that waits years between blog posts?
Every few years is fine. Yeah, that's good.
Once I started doing YouTube, I just felt that the blog was kind of irrelevant because I'm just going to kind of reiterate all of my thoughts I would put there on screen. So it's like, what was the point of it? That was my rationale behind it. But before we get into kind of the main part of our show transitioning over, are there any upcoming releases by whomever that you're highly anticipating? Like, what's the highest priority for you?
One we're going to be talking about today, and I'll leave that to you to try to guess which one that might be. It's probably not the one you're thinking of. Now, typically, in terms of things that are upcoming, I mean, I always have Criterion on the brain. I'm pretty excited about. Hold on, I'm looking at what they have coming up.
I'm sure Pink Flamingo's on that list, right?
It is on that list. I've never actually seen Pink Flamingos, so that's going to be a fun blind buy. It's one of those things when Criterion started doing John Waters things. It's like, do I want to watch Pink Flamingos now, or do I wait? Yeah. Because I know that it's going to be coming out at some point. All right, looking through their stuff coming up, I'm really excited for, speaking of the Red Shoes, Powell and Pressburger, Tales of Hoffman is fantastic. I'm really looking forward to that Blu-ray release, though I'm disappointed that it's not a 4K. That movie is so colorful, so bright, so flashy. The entire movie is just the dance scene from the Red Shoes, but for a full 2 hours.
That's exactly what I said.
It's exactly what he said. Yeah.
Verbatim.
I promise I did not intentionally plagiarize you, but I'm very disappointed that because of that it won't be in 4K. But I'm also excited for Pink Flamingos. The Worst Person in the World is a great movie.
That's great.
Good to see that coming out in physical media. And supposedly in July, we'll be getting Drive My Car, which will also be great.
Yeah.
So those are the big things upcoming that I'm excited about that we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah. And
or that we won't talk about in the near future.
Yeah, I could guess, but you just surprise us. Please just surprise us.
I'll surprise you.
So, all right, with that said, we got a couple news tidbits that we'll just surprise you with real quick that we didn't tell you that we were going to talk about. They're little things, nothing too crazy, but one of the things is the Second Sight has a UHD coming out of The Witch, and they just announced, I think today, Andrew, if I'm not, or maybe it was yesterday, that they're pushing that back.
Yes, that's being pushed back to June 20th, and the reason being is because they are working on a new HDR. They're working on the new HDR grade with Robert Eggers directly, which
nice.
Which leads me to just quick segue is that HDR is a relatively new thing with 4K, and it does manipulate the aesthetics of a film, and oftentimes it's done without the consent or without the input of the filmmaker of the film. So I'm always curious as to if the filmmaker is involved with that, or cinematographer, or whomever, because that doesn't really enter my head. But that's the reason being. So at least it's going to be a correct aesthetic to that movie, because that movie has such a unique aesthetic to it.
I'm excited about that. I love The Witch, so I'm excited to have that in 4K. It's very interesting. I wouldn't think that maybe the initial version was bad. It reminds me of when Kino was putting out Brick, and they pushed that back because Rian Johnson was like, hey, I want to work on this with you guys.
Yeah, he literally tweeted out that I would have done like special features had you asked me, and then I guess they asked me.
Yeah. And I mean, what studio or boutique label is going to say no to a filmmaker that wants to work with them? It adds additional legitimacy to the release itself. And Second Sight does great stuff, so that's very exciting. They're the ones that did, looking at it right now, the Dawn of the Dead Brick.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And they're the ones also doing the upcoming Drive release.
Yeah, in the similar style as to this Witch release.
Yes.
Just Super Max Deluxe.
And I've tweeted this before. I don't know if either of you saw this. It's a little bit of a... This is where I'm putting myself... This is my hot take. I'm putting myself in the crosshairs here. Even if I love the movie, I'm not sure I'm crazy about... Maybe I'm only coming at this because I have limited shelf space as is, about a single film that takes up the space that a full box set would. I don't know. Part of me doesn't want to miss out on having all of it. I have the FOMO. But I mean, speaking specifically to the Dawn of the Dead set, which I needed to buy because I needed it in my house anyways, because there's no other way to get it. Getting it in 4K was great. I even bought that before I had a 4K TV, knowing that eventually I'd get a 4K TV. But there's like comic books in there that I'm honestly probably never going to read, and I have to wonder if I bought an edition without that, could I have fit 2 more Blu-rays on that shelf? Yeah.
I think you always ask those questions, especially when you look back on your shelf and you're trying to find space. You're like, oh, the space I could have had. The space I could have had.
So I'm definitely going to be thinking, which version do I really want to buy when it comes to The Witch on 4K and Drive in 4K?
Yeah, it's to be honest with you guys, I'm so crazy. I don't even think about that stuff. I'm not even thinking about like, do I have the space? I'm just like getting it, and then
I just want it.
I just sit it over here on a right. Like Andrew has like piles all around him on the couch and chairs and stuff.
I was just pulling stuff like we were talking about Tarkovsky, and I literally have the Criterion version of The Mirror next to me, just randomly. It's not even purposeful at all. And I have Criterions next to me, not even thinking of that to work it into the show. They're just here. Yeah, because they're just everywhere.
He just lives in movies. Yep. Yeah, and so it's I'm kind of I have to say it. I'm a box set whore, so I like a nice box set, and they know how to get me. So I already have pre-ordered the Drive ridiculous set that they have coming, and that UHD that the Witch set is getting. I think it's getting moved back about a month, maybe. I think it was originally coming out in May, if I'm not mistaken. But the other tidbit we wanted to talk about was, what was the other one? Do you remember?
Oh, Warner Archive
Warner-
is one of their recent.
I don't think that was it, but go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say that was the one that came into my head. We talked about it briefly before the show. Is the adaptation of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the one by starring Frederick March, is getting a Blu-ray release.
Yay!
Which is one I think a lot of people know of. That's kind of a definitive one, and so I'm super excited for that because there's so many adaptations of that work, and I think that's one of the best ones.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I've seen a bunch of other Jekyll and Mr. Hyde versions that we will talk about today because there's at least 2 of them in the slates that we're talking about. The other tidbit I had, it was the Severin out of the blue.
Oh yes, Severin out of the blue, getting an upgrade from regular Blu-ray to a 4K UHD version. Apparently, whatever Kickstarter that was started years ago for the Blu-ray release has gotten enough funds to make it a UHD release now. I think that was how this whole thing transpired. And of course, this is the Dennis Hopper film that we talked about when it was announced from Severin.
So what they're doing is if you pre-ordered from Severin directly, they send you an email. I've already done this. They sent me an email, and they give you the option to upgrade. And it's $11 to upgrade from the Blu-ray to the 4K, and then so like the Blu-rays, the 2-disc Blu-rays are going to get shipped out. I think they said by the end of this week, and then the new 4K, which will have 2 4Ks and 2 Blu-rays in it, goes out. I think they said June, so you'll have to have some patience. But I think it'll be well worth it for this film because this film is a pretty awesome film, and I'll be happy to see it in 4K. So because we talked about before, we're in a time right now where home media is probably the best it's ever been, and they're making restorations and they're doing these things where they're at the best quality they'll ever be. And I want to if I'm going to get it, I might as well get it in probably the best quality it's ever going to be, so I don't have to ever buy it again. So Dave, have you seen Out of the Blue, and are you excited about this?
I had never heard of Out of the Blue until now. So this is I know. This is what I love about Blu-rays. Yes. You can just find movies that were never on your radar before. And previously, it was just Criterion I'd get that from. But now with these other labels becoming so much more prevalent, I don't know if it's a case of just Criterion's the best gateway drug. And the more you get into these other labels, the more you find them. But I also think that a lot of them, especially Severin, have been upping their game lately, especially with that folk horror compendium that they released. Yeah. You'll find these great sets, and it's shocking how many of these labels are now doing these 4K releases. And when it's a 4K release, you're almost like, how can I not buy this? Because hopefully, and who knows, 4K may be the final physical media form of films. We don't know. I thought Blu-ray might have been. I didn't think 4K was going to take off like it did, but I'm certainly not going to complain that I now have several 4K discs on my shelves.
I was going to say, I'm surprised that 4K's taken off so much in the boutique realm, because it is a much more expensive endeavor than Blu-ray was, and Blu-ray was already expensive for them to do. So they must be, people must be buying them for them to be making more.
I think what it comes down to is that the only people really buying physical media anymore are the nerds, the geeks, the diehards like us, and I think we're willing to spend whatever it takes to get it. And if we're willing to spend the money, they'll produce it. And I think it also helps that once one label starts doing 4K, the others really have no choice but to catch up, or they'll get left behind.
Yeah, we're seeing that with Kino versus Criterion right now.
I know.
Oh, goodness
Kino's
gracious.
been putting them out like hotcakes.
Dave, what's your opinion on that, especially when it comes to double buying movies and things like that? We didn't really get into that early on, but just bringing that up just reminds me to ask a fellow collector what they think.
No. So if I already own something on a different label and Criterion puts it out, I will rebuy it. I'm less inclined to do that the other way around. I don't know.
You're
hold
loyal.
Criterion
You're
to
loyal.
a very high.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm very loyal to Criterion. So I part of me is almost like, Kino, what are you doing here? Why are you starting? Why are you messing with this right now? Trying to line up here and mess with people. The things that I've been noticing also, like their Silence of the Lambs 4K was not a good restoration from what I hear. A lot of the ones that they're putting out in 4K do not have the HDR, which supposedly is not a bad thing inherently. But I do know with Kino, no shade towards Kino, they do sometimes rush their releases. So I do think that they are just trying to take advantage of a gap, and maybe not looking at it from a quality standpoint, just from a financial standpoint. And that I'm not the coolest with.
Okay.
Yeah. You're not wrong in those assessments, because a long-running theme of this podcast, and maybe even joke, is that Kino announces things rapidly and frequently and in an abundance. They've slowed down over the last couple of weeks, but when we started this podcast, Steven, they were announcing so much.
They might have been the reason we went to weekly episodes, because we used to do every other week, and then we were like, God damn it, just the Kino releases alone are killing us.
They in 2 weeks they would have like 20 announcements, or at least over between a dozen and 20, and it was just too much to keep up on. And
a lot of those things, like they don't come into fruition. Was it Kino that was supposed to put out a 4K of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind?
They're still working on it, apparently.
Yeah, well, they'll announce things like, for instance, Out of Sight. Out of Sight was supposed to have come out by now, but now it just got a date for, I think, June, the end of June.
Man on the Moon just came out a couple of weeks ago, and they announced that a year ago. I think we talked about it.
It seems strange to me. Why are you going to announce something before? And I mean, look at what happened with Lost Highway. They announced it. They had all these special features. David Lynch came in and said, "You can't put any special features on it."
There you go.
And now it looks like the rights are back with, or not back with. Looks like Janus has the rights to that. It's almost like it's short-sighted, in my opinion. If you focused and tried very hard to make sure that these were taken care of in the right way, you'd probably get people like Lynch that want to work with you more. Instead, I think they're a little bit too impulsive.
No, I can see that point of view. I think the only thing with Kino that I think they're doing really, I guess you could say, just because how much better could you make these movies look anyway, is silent era stuff. I mean, they got so much silent era stuff coming out that I think it's hard to complain about what they do there, because, I mean, how much better could you have made them films look anyway?
And I'm never going to complain about that, because they've always done very well. I'm going to throw some shade on Cohen. I think it's kind of lame of them that they stole the Buster Keaton rights away from Kino, because Kino had some good sets. And not to say that the new Cohen restorations are bad, but I've been buying the Masters of Cinema restorations because they have much nicer covers than the Cohen ones.
I agree with you. I missed out on the first volume.
I was going to say, that's also, as a collector, very, very confusing. When all of the Buster Keaton stuff came out through Kino, and then Cohen started putting them out, you're like, which ones are better? Are there different restorations? Are they the same restorations? Which? And so they don't really say which ones. And then the Eureka ones now.
So the Cohen ones are new.
Yes.
That doesn't necessarily mean better. Lobster handled all the restorations on the original Kino ones. I think Lobster still handled, and granted, the shorts, I think Kino still has the rights to, because I have the short set from Eureka, which is Lobster. And Lobster worked almost exclusively with Kino, except Love Affair, the recent Criterion release, which I have not watched yet, was a Lobster restoration with Criterion. So I'm wondering if Lobster and Criterion are going to start working together versus with Kino.
I was just going to say, Criterion did put out another Buster Keaton film as well, The Cameraman. So
yes, that one, since it was a later one, it was one of his MGM films. Yes. I don't think that Kino had the authority to claim dominance over it.
Yeah. As we know now, that MGM library, I've been saying it for the last several episodes, it's all over the place in terms of who owns what where and where things are coming out. Warner Brothers owns some. Amazon now owns some. It's a wild ride. But Stephen, let's move on to our next item.
Well, yeah, let's get into our first, our first slate here. Let's start with, how about we start with Vinegar Syndrome?
Okay.
Or do you want to start with Eureka?
I was going to start with Eureka. But
let's do Eureka then.
Because that was the earliest one that came out. I like to go chronologically.
Let's do that.
So in typical fashion, usually when we get a release from Arrow Video, Eureka is right there behind
On
it.
their tails, yeah.
Usually a day beforehand, which was the case. And they are putting out 3 films. They are putting out The Shaolin Plot, Execution in Autumn, and Outside the Law. Speaking of silent film, Outside the Law is a silent film from 1920 directed by Todd Browning from, directed Freaks and other films as well. And this is a small slate, but one particular item that's interesting to me is the Shaolin Plot is part of this kind of sub-label they got going on, Kung Fu Classics, which they're putting out quite a few of. These are films from Golden Harvest. We've talked so much about, martial arts and Chinese cinema recently with all of the releases that have come out between Eureka, 88 Films, and now Arrow. Everyone's jumping into the martial arts game in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and we know, I think we're just about to get the next announcement from Arrow, I think, of that next set. I think it's probably going to either be June announcements or July announcements, or July announcements are probably where it's going to be, because we just got June announcements. So probably next month we're going to get that new Shaw Brothers Volume 2, I'm thinking.
Do you think we'll get...
They already made some sort of announcement about Shaw Brothers Volume 3 having something.
Really?
So clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some sort of weird thing. I can't remember who. I think it was a filmmaker recently passed away.
Yes.
And they said he won't unfortunately be in Volume 3, but he's definitely going to be in Volume 4. And everyone's like, Volume 3?
4?
To Volume 2
You haven't
yet.
announced Volume 2 yet. God. We got a little tease in the Volume 1 set of some upcoming titles. They put a little card in there or something, so we know.
I missed that.
Yeah, there's a spot in the hardback book where it says these movies. Look for these movies in Volume 2.
And it's
Gotcha.
And so these, so I think they'll announce it, but they'll be like, hey, it's coming out later this year or something.
Yeah,
I don't think
my guess is it's going to be their December each year
Probably.
kind of release.
that would be kind of cool, kind of like
Star Wars or something. It's their Star Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be like
Gives me plenty of time to watch through all the kung fu movies and plenty of time to
reacquaint yourself,
monetize my wallet.
Yeah. I was just thinking that it'd be nice to give us a full year to build up to the next Shaw Brothers set. Do 3 or 4 of these or however many they have. But Eureka has been putting them out right along, and they've put out a couple of these films already, and this goes right along with it. And this is a film, I think it's directed by King Hu, who did, of course...
Which movie?
The Shaolin Plot.
It says Fung Hang.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
I think it's just mentioning King Hu because Sammo Hung had worked on Touch of Zen.
That's what it is. Sammo Hung stars in this film. It's kind of one of his first starring roles. And he also, of course, did the fight choreography and stuff like that. But he worked with King Hu in King Hu's earlier films, like a couple of the ones that are in the Criterion Collection, coincidentally, going back to that. And I really am trying to get all of these Eureka releases because they're really nice sets. This is getting a new 2K restoration. It's getting 2 new audio commentaries, which is really nice. And yeah, Steven, did you get a chance to see any of these films?
Unfortunately not.
Okay.
I spend a lot of my time looking at, I think, some of the Arrow stuff and Vinegar Syndrome stuff more, but some of these are hard to find sometimes. I can't find some of these Hong Kong films or these, and you somehow find them. I don't know how you find them.
I try to find them. It's really hard to find them in if they're in Chinese, if they're in Mandarin or Cantonese. You always end up finding the English dub, which is tough to watch because they change the dialogue and the voices. Sometimes they don't match up and it's goofy sometimes. And I want to watch it in its original language. And sometimes you just can't find it, in preparation for the show. But it's nice when you get the physical media release and they have it in both Mandarin and English, and you can watch it any way you want. So I guess that's That's the reason to really see these films in the original version. When it comes to other films that I in the slate, I did see Outside the Law. You can watch this on YouTube because it came out in 1920. It's a public domain. Looking.
So you're not stepping outside the law to watch this movie.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Well, I also like to bring up public domain prints. Companies have been putting out public domain prints of movies since DVD's been around, and they look so bad. They look so horrific.
The thing is Andrew thinks he's above the law, which is Steven Seagal reference. Sorry,
nice.
Sorry, I did that. I'm sorry.
Dude, I'm a citizen above suspicion, I guess.
Oh man, come on. This should be a game.
But this is getting a 4K restoration by Universal, and there's a new video interview with it with Kim Newman in it as well. And yeah, I just glad to see more silent films back on Blu-ray.
Yeah,
this is Outside the Law is my of the Eureka releases. This is the one that caught my interest the most because I love Todd Browning, I love Lon Chaney. I love kung fu movies, and I'll probably pick up the Shaolin plot at some point. I love that their focus has been on Sammo Hung because he's this martial arts master that didn't really get his due in the United States. I mean, he's a contemporary and friend of Jackie Chan. And if you really want to see a great movie that Eureka's put out starring Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung that Sammo Hung directed, check out Wheels on Meals.
Yeah.
That's my recommendation there. If you're already filling up a shopping cart with kung fu movies, add that one.
I was going to say they've already come out with a few of the kung fu classics films, and they've come out with, and Arrow's just re-releasing, I think, one of their releases.
Is it the one-armed boxer?
Yes, the one-armed boxer.
Yeah.
And yeah, I definitely agree with Dave. That's one that's so interesting to me. I was not expecting a silent film being put out from them, specifically since these two other films seem so different. They actually all seem different from one another.
Well, I was going to say, they all seem kind of different. This other one here, the Execution in Autumn, looks like more of like a dramatic piece we got here. Did you get a chance to see this one?
That one I could not see at all. I couldn't find it streaming anywhere or anything like that, and it was just, in the wind. I was lucky to see, the Shaolin Plot. Shaolin Plot's a really entertaining movie. The plot kind of dips a bit in the middle, and it kind of, it gets a little slow in the middle. But the action sequences in this movie are what you watch these films for.
Oh yeah, awesome. Well, if there's nothing else to say on the Eureka releases, would you like to move on to Vinegar Syndrome?
Sure. Sounds good.
All right. Well, Vinegar Syndrome, as you know, we're about to get close to their halfway to Black Friday sale. And usually what they do is they like to drop announcements on what's going to be new to that sale. And they have not announced everything. I think they still got a couple releases that they're going to be announcing soon. But they did give us 3 of the announcements that they're going to be putting out. And if I'm not mistaken, they're all 4K releases, Andrew. Ain't that right?
They are indeed.
Yes.
They will be, because they had their kind of pre-order period to their midway to Black Friday sale, and they had been teasing these for a little while. One we kind of already knew, and the other were kind of mysterious ones, and they still have to actually announce 2 releases that they haven't yet. The big one, the headliner, is Thriller: A Cruel Picture, which we knew was coming. We knew was on the horizon. This is a massive release for them. It's a 4-disc release. 2 UHD discs, 2 Blu-rays. We've talked about it before. It's getting newly scanned and restored from the original 16mm negative and all that kind of stuff. It's going to be in the original Swedish. I did not know this was a Swedish film until I watched it. But that was interesting to find out. And yeah, this is a cult classic of a film.
And of course they've recently uncovered more of this movie that they're adding, which is adding even more of like an excitement. The new, I think they're calling it the festival cut, maybe the uncut festival version. And so, and to coincide with that, the recent Synapse release, the Blu-ray, which Vinegar Syndrome hasn't been. About. Yeah, which we haven't. The Vinegar Syndrome has been throwing jabs since they've been talking about this new 4K release they've been doing. They've been doing these very subtle jabs at the Synapse release being, not worthy of you having on your shelf. And so now today I'm seeing, and I don't know, we don't know really the reasons yet, but the Synapse release of Thriller is now off of their website. So is this a rights thing where like the rights are now not theirs anymore? Is it they've decided that it's not worth making anymore, and they're like, well, bye? I don't, it's kind of crazy.
Or, I mean, I'm just looking here to, did it, I think it may have actually already come out.
Oh, it's already out for sale. People have bought the new that.
Yeah,
Synapse
it came out
version.
March 8th. This thing, so is it just sold out? Was it super limited?
I don't think so. I don't think it's that simple. Dave, have you seen this film, and what do you feel about the scenario going on here?
This is all juicy gossip, and I love it. So I'll be honest. I had seen the pre-orders that were up for sale on Vinegar Syndrome's website when they put out the halfway to Black Friday pre-order sale, which I still don't fully understand because it's the sale before the sale of the sale.
Yeah.
But anyways, I chose not to go with buying everything for two reasons. One, sometimes you never know what you're going to get with those two extras.
Yes.
There's some fun in that unknowing, but I chose to save a little bit of money. Also because I had never heard of Thriller and thought it was a new movie that was trying to be an old movie, and I don't always like when that happens. And I'm kicking myself for not ordering this then. I know I'll just buy it later.
Yeah.
But it sounds like a lot of fun. It's always very interesting when two studios get the same rights to the same movie. I have to wonder how that happened. I wonder if it's just because of any sort of number of copyright laws that this may not have been filed for since it was made in the 70s in Sweden. I literally, again, didn't know that until I was doing prep for this episode, and I thought to myself, could have bought that when it was slightly cheaper than it is now.
Yeah.
But no, this seems like a fun movie. A cruel picture makes it sound like something that definitely you want to watch at 2 a.m.
I was gonna say if any kind of thing that could get you in its headspace, Tarantino's a big fan, and he basically rips it off in Kill Bill. So with
that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, so I could definitely see when I was watching. I'm like, Tarantino definitely digs this movie. It's a B movie. It's a grindhouse-ish type movie. It's a sleazy movie. I mean, just to forewarn people, it's very sexual. Like, there is literally sequences within the film where it is pornographic in terms of its sexual depiction of people, having sex. It's literally there. And it's in
4K.
Yeah, and it's in 4K. I couldn't only imagine. I watched in like kind of an awful, quality version. I couldn't imagine what this could look like. And it's super stylized too. The second half of the film, it's a revenge film. So, there's a lot of stylization I think was taken, took influence from this film when it came to kind of, we just talked about The Matrix earlier, that kind of slow-mo action type stuff. May have been taken from this film. It's an iconic film because it's also part of the rape revenge kind of subgenre of horror, I would say, or thriller, literally. We've seen so many of those types of plot lines and things like that. But yeah, this is a big time release, and I'm curious if it's going to eventually sell out at some point. Because, these releases are limited. I'm not quite sure how many. I had a debate with Steven a few days ago about how many do you think there is, and I'm assuming a couple of thousand releases.
Because Vinegar Syndrome, Vinegar Syndrome doesn't say how many there is their sellout point. They just say over 1,000.
Yeah,
it's over 1,000.
But they'll tell you how many they have left, which is nice. That always helps.
Yeah. It helps me buy stuff when I don't need it.
It doesn't help my anxiety, I'll tell you that.
There's only 1,000 left. I better buy one now.
Yeah, it's like, what number is too low to where I should jump on this?
Mm-hmm.
But moving on from there, We got two of their other releases that were announced. One being Cloak and Dagger, and this is a really fun 80s film directed by a director we've talked about a few times, Richard Franklin, who directed Road Games, and he also directed Psycho 2, which doesn't get enough love in my opinion, but that's just me. And this is a probably a nostalgic film for many people. When this was announced, so many people came out and were like, "Oh, I watched this so many times when I was a kid. It was constantly on repeat in my home on TV or something." And I actually had never seen it up until preparing for this episode.
Yeah, and I don't know that I have either. I've heard the name Cloak and Dagger. When you're talking about being sneaky or something.
Yeah, it's like a film noir type thing, actually.
Yeah, but I didn't know there was. Apparently, this is a thing, like you said. Dave, is this the surprise one?
This is not. I did pre-order this
good,
one.
okay.
I'd never seen it before. I feel like I might have heard of it, but when I read the synopsis, I thought, how can I not have this? This sounds like perfect. The perfect amount of 80s fun, that campiness of there's a hidden government files in the video game.
Yeah, it's such an 80s
how
plot.
can you not love that?
It's such an 80s plot and fun romp, but there's also an existential journey this kid's going on, trying to connect with his dad or something like that. It's really good. I was surprised at how good it is.
It seems almost like the kind of movie that you make today if you're trying to make an 80s movie that ends up being terrible. But no, this is an actual thing. Kind of like, granted, completely different topic here, but New York Ninja, how that's an actual 80s movie that you'd feel like is a movie that's trying to be an 80s movie, but it actually is an 80s movie because they shot it in the 80s. But obviously this is a bigger movie that people have actually seen and heard of. And that's why it gets that Vinegar Syndrome University or VSU, whatever that label is, their sub-label.
Yeah, their VS, their VSU line, which this is only their third release in that sub-label. The first two being Beastmaster, and one of my favorite releases of the last few years is Six String Samurai. I'm gonna say it again. That movie's fantastic. That release is amazing. People should buy it. It's fantastic. And this will obviously be in a similar vein in terms of packaging, with the clasp box and stuff inside and whatnot. So that's probably worth in and of itself if you're a VSU enthusiast like myself. But this is also. It's getting a new scan in 4K from the original 35mm camera negative. It's got a commentary in there. I love the cover art for this too. It's really cool, really bright and
it almost looks like a Christmas sweater.
It does. It does look like that. And I know Dabney Coleman plays the dad as well as the kind of imaginary friend in the film, and this guy has been a character actor for forever. Forever. If you see him, you'll probably know him because he's been in so many things. He's done a lot of TV work lately. He was in Boardwalk Empire. I think he showed up in Deadwood at one point. I mean, he's been in so many different things. If you just look on his IMDb, you'll probably notice him. But moving on from there, I think we're moving on to another hotly anticipated release, and this is Miami Connection. Dave, is this the one that you've been anticipating?
This is it. This is the one. The second I saw this, I said, pre-order this immediately. I love Miami Connection. It is the 80s. It's unreplicatable. The kinds of, I almost hate to say it, because I love this movie, but it's a bad movie.
It's not good.
You can't make a bad movie like this anymore. If you tried, it would fail.
You couldn't make a movie this bad if you tried. And it's just, what a stunning film.
It's just filled, it is just filled with such wholesomeness, with all this wanting for a better world, mixed with extreme out-of-place violence. It's wonderfully, if you can only get this if you don't know what you're doing. If you knew anything more about movies, you wouldn't do this. It has all the makings of a vanity piece without being all that vain. It's great. It is fantastic.
You couldn't explain this movie to people if you tried, because it's there's parts of it that feel like a music video. Parts of it feel like an ad for Taekwondo. Part of it feels like is this a martial arts movie? Is this a gang movie? What is the movie has as thin of a plot as if you threw a piece of tissue paper into the ocean. It's just, you're just going along on scene to scene that don't really connect with one another, but you can't stop watching it because you don't know what's going on or what's going to happen next. It's a stunning film.
The 80s were just this wonderful era where an individual, what's the name of the writer-director here?
Wu Sang Park?
Wu Sang Park, where he was able to get just enough money to barely make a movie.
Yes.
Nowadays, you could say, "Hey, me and my friends deserve to star in a movie," and just whip out your iPhones and make something awful that no one's going to see. Back then, you had to like get cameras and get all this equipment and actually try hard. And some of that artistry does make it to the screen. And this is one of those movies that was like famously lost, right? Until it might have been Alamo Drafthouse found it. I don't know, that this was something that was like found in a dumpster or something. One of those types of movies. And it's like, this is incredible. The world needs to see this.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the original elements of this film probably don't exist because they're getting these 4K scan and restoration from the 35mm interpositive, which is something after the negative. And yeah, but this is just, you're right. It's the 80s boiled down into one movie. You know,
the whole ninja culture, martial arts culture, and then like the tainted youth culture.
Not only that, and they're also like there's like there's a rival between like two rock bands or something, but the rock bands are also gangs.
It has it all.
Yeah.
What?
And just from a like skeletal structure of what the movie is, it just has this like, hey, this is going to be on the shelf at a Blockbuster. We're going to be famous. It's perfect.
It's exactly what you said. It's as if like someone made a movie and like for no money with a bunch of their friends and then uploaded it to YouTube for a modern context. It's exactly what it looks like.
Use 35mm film.
But they actually use, like you said, like real cameras and stuff.
People, yeah.
And I'll have to say, I think the character's name is Jim, played by Maury Smith. I think that's the right character, but he had to have been some of the most terrible moments in the movie, like
oh my goodness,
acting wise. He's the black character from the group.
Yeah, he's the one like my dad.
Yeah, the intro to his character. We never see his character throughout like the first part of the movie, and then he just shows up randomly after a fight, and he's like gonna go take a shower, and then he just goes into this super long monologue about like how he's an orphan, but he never met his dad, but his mom like met him when he was like a GI or something. It's just, and it's a scene like they would use for like an Academy Award reel or something. It's like
my favorite's
like
when they go to the mailbox at the end. My favorite's when they go to the mailbox at the end of the movie, and he like pulls the letter out. He's like, "It's my dad." And he just starts crying, and his friends all come out and like go around him, and they lift him up in the air like a damn sports movie. And like I'm like, what the hell is this? Like,
oh my god!
Too excited about this.
At the end, they're fighting in like this swamp type area with swords and stuff, and they're like, and it's all like slow motion and stylized. The looks on these actors' faces is some of the most priceless things you'll ever see. This movie is kind of like The Room, if you need a more modern comparison, and that's the way in which you watch this film. It's just what a wild movie, and it's getting a 4K release.
Yeah,
that's the thing. You can name any number of famous. Citizen Kane does have 4K. The Third Man, that doesn't have a 4K.
Not
release.
yet, no.
Miami Connection does.
And funny enough, this actually is getting another release through Umbrella Entertainment in Australia too. So they're putting a Blu-ray out. So you're going to get a lot of Miami Connection out there for you guys to take in.
Yeah, and there's a lot of special features on here as well. They're going probably the very full tilt. It's like a brand new making of documentary is coming on here as well. Is that a 3-disc release? Yes, 3-disc. 1 UHD, 2 Blu-rays. And the cover art is actually awesome. The cover art's maybe better than the whole movie. for the slip
The
cover.
cover art for this one looks like it was done by whoever did the cover art for New York Ninja.
Yes, it looks very New York Ninja-ish. This movie and New York Ninja would probably be a great double feature.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, I know there was one more release that I saw. I'm not seeing it on Vinegar Syndrome's site anymore.
No, I'm not seeing on the Vinegar Syndrome's site either. I don't know why.
I don't know.
Did they accidentally leak what one of the secret ones was?
Maybe
there was
if you go to
double-
Dawn of the Discs on Instagram, they also show a double feature movie
Yes.
with Horror High and Stanley.
Yes.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yes,
and,
they do. And I don't know why it's not on there anymore. Maybe it was exclusive to maybe that package because they're not selling the package anymore. That was exclusive for the weekend that just happened.
Maybe.
And I don't know if that's the case.
That might be right because the pre-sale ended yesterday.
Yes.
So maybe it's not on here until the sale. But I did watch Horror High, and Horror High, like I said, I alluded to earlier, it's like another version of Jekyll and Hyde. This time it's a high school student, and
I kind of wish I watched that because I watched Stanley instead.
Oh, did you?
Stanley's like you can watch it streaming on Plex right now for free. And yeah, go on about Horror High because I don't have much to say about Stanley.
Well, I mean, look, it's obviously a very low budget movie, and it's you get it like another film, another Jekyll and Hyde version we're gonna get later. It's got a lot of great fun kills in it and things like that. It's about a nerd who gets picked on at school, and as he gets picked on, he starts to realize he has the other side of him, and he consumes this new drug that's going around the school, and it turns him into this Jekyll this Hyde character, and yeah, it is what it is, but it's fun. I like films I like discovering low. This obviously the version I watched was pretty low grade, so I'm thinking about trying. I might buy this. I haven't decided yet, but I'd like to hear more about Stanley.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to find out if there's any news about why it's no longer available, but I can't find anything other than when it was announced on Friday.
I don't think you could ever buy it standalone. I think it was only ever part of
that bundle,
the package that includes everything.
Okay.
Yeah, the bundle.
Yeah, it's part of it's like a drive-in collection. It's a double feature with Stanley. What is interesting that Stanley is a much different film than the film you just described.
Okay.
I don't know why they go together, other than the fact that they're kind of schlocky drive-in fair films. Stanley is a film I think from the early 70s. I watched it, and
let me tell you the connection. It's the same director.
Oh, is it the same director?
That's why.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay, that makes sense.
Well, wait. You know what? I could be lying. Wait a second. Keep going. Keep talking.
Okay, so basically, a young Native American who has returned from Vietnam is, I think, pretty much suffering from PTSD, and he kind of lives alone in the woods, and he has a bunch of pet snakes that he is very, very close to the point where he can kind of control them, and they do his bidding, and he treats them like they are his children. But so when people kind of mess with him or try to use him for money reasons to because apparently the snake venom is profitable and whatnot, he uses his snakes to get revenge and stuff. And that's the plot of the movie. And the movie is 1 hour and 48 minutes long.
Yeah. What? Well, you know what? That I mean, okay, it's not the same director. It's by William Griffin, which I think they put out the Arrow put out a set of his films. But the plot looks like it's about two people consuming something, right? That's the connection. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not a good film, and it's gruelingly long. Like 1 hour and 48 minutes for that plot, and for essentially what I just described to you. What keeps happening, it's just way too long of a film. If the movie was 90 minutes, 85 minutes, if it had the same plot length as Miami Connection, it'd probably be better. And it's just a wild concept of a film. And I don't know if it's part of maybe that whole, like, killer animal type of horror subgenre or something like that. But they're regular snakes. They're not like mutated snakes. It's not like alligator or anything like that. They're just regular snakes. And Yeah,
I mean, it's a 70s lo-fi horror movie. They're both 70s lo-fi horror movies. Maybe that's just a weird,
I mean, it is trying to comment on, and it is trying to comment on the whole post-Vietnam era of veterans coming back with PTSD and having psychological issues because of that. And that's kind of really the core of it, because as the film goes on, he gets more and more deep into his psychosis, and if anything, that's the one main positive of it. But the plot line is him just killing people with his pet snakes. Go on.
What I'm taking away from this is that Stanley created the killer animal movie craze that led to Jaws.
Very much so.
It was that.
Stanley really changed movie history.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing.
And Stanley's the name of his snake, if anyone needs that connection. Like his name's not Stanley.
Stanley, bite him. But cool. I mean, that's that double feature. That's a maybe for me.
Yeah, it's like that first. Like they had you in that first half, but maybe that second half.
That one's a maybe.
But
all right. Well, that's it for the Vinegar Syndrome stuff for now. But until we hear more from their releases when we get closer to the sale. But the last slate we're going to talk about here is one of the big guys, Arrow Video. They have a whole slate for us to delve into, and I guess let's start with, you could say, is a reissue.
Yes.
Yeah,
big reissue.
It's a big reissue. And they are reissuing True Romance in 4K. Yes. And these editions are ones that are going to be available in the US and Canada. So because the original ones were only UK editions, but of course because they're 4K, you're able to watch them.
They're region free.
So these editions will have 4Ks, and I believe, are they combos? Yeah, 4K Blu-rays. And there will be the US versions, and it looks like, are they both steelbooks?
No, we're getting the same type of release slate as they originally had, and so you can get them in different versions. You can get the super deluxe, UHD set. You can get the Blu-ray version of that. You can get a deluxe steelbook version of that. I think in both 4K and regular Blu-ray. The big thing for this set, the big difference, because this set came out last year in the UK, is there is a couple of special features that, due to rights issues, they could not transfer over. What those are, I'm not sure, because they haven't really said. But we did get one of the producers from Arrow did say that on Twitter when this was announced last week. So that's good to know. If you still trying to hunt down that set from the UK version, you can probably find it on places like eBay, but it's probably going to be super expensive now because of that difference.
And also I think that when we're talking about the different versions, that one artwork that people liked more, a lot of people didn't like the postcardy cartoony version, but they liked the other one. I think that was a Zavvi exclusive initially, wasn't it? That other artwork.
Which not obviously not the one they're re-releasing. But
the one that people liked more.
They liked that one more, not this one. I always thought this was the one that they liked.
The one that people didn't like was like the one that looked like cartoony.
Oh,
okay. With the purple colors and all that stuff on it. Mm-hmm, that's the one people always complained about.
I did not know that.
That's the one. Hey, that's just my point of view. That's what I saw. Maybe I'm crazy, but
so
I'm just glad that I'm not crazy that they already released this, because I saw that and I said, "You did this."
Yeah.
What? What's this mean? Why are we? That's I guess that's region free privilege speaking right there, where I'm just like, why is this news? Why are there 4 different versions? Didn't you already do 4 different versions?
Not only that, it leads me to believe, why did they just do it? I mean, probably a rights issues thing, but why didn't they just do a UHD version here in the US at the time, because of the whole rights thing? I know there's been a Blu-ray here in the US for a long time, and it obviously this upgrade was definitely worth it. But I know everyone probably, if you were able to, probably jumped on the UK release, yeah, the only release we have here is True Romance Director's Cut, put out in 2009 by Warner Brothers, and I think I have this somewhere, but this is an upgrade for me. I would love to track down that UK set, but it could be out of price range wise, and I am a completist, so I kind of hate missing out on some special features, but gotta do what I gotta do.
I'll let you watch mine through
the screen
video.
Through the screen.
I'll take my phone out and you can watch it. And
That's the way 4K is meant to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the way Christopher Nolan wants all of his films to be watched on his cell phones.
On a phone through another screen into another. Yeah.
Exactly.
But it's going to be a chain of phones until we've reached VHS quality. And it feels like
that sounds like something Soderbergh would do.
1992.
Soderbergh would definitely make that movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, his movies are shot on some cell phones. Might as well go back to the source.
So, Dave, are you a True Romance fan? Do you like the movie?
It's fine.
I don't know. I don't believe you. I don't.
I haven't seen it in 15 years. I'd be curious to watch it again. I'll be honest, I'm not chomping at the bit to buy this, but I'm sure I'll get it at some point. But this is where I'm going to be I'm really giving myself hot takes here. I'm not the craziest Tarantino guy. I like Tarantino movies, but and I like Tony Scott, but I don't know. I don't feel that obsessive need to buy this like I would the Miami Connection.
Look, I'm with you. I mean, look, I like Tarantino as well. I usually get a little excited for his movies, but honestly, I'm with you in the sense of like I don't hold him as high as a lot of people do because some of it being some of his philosophies, especially with his whole like I'm gonna make 10 movies and then I'm calling it quits. Like I'm keeping score or something like that. Like I don't.
Yeah.
Whatever. All the stuff that he talks about loving so much is from directors that made a bunch of crap, and he loves them guys so much. He loves them guys so much, but then he doesn't want to be one of them guys. He wants to be like, I want a perfect 10 movies, and don't have any bad movies, and that's all already debatable as it is. But you know.
And I'm sure what's going to happen is once he's made 10 movies, which technically he already has, if you count Kill Bill as 2. So he's already cheating. He's going to make an 11th movie and be like, oh, that one doesn't count.
You know what? That's technically like connected to this other movie. So it's like really they're one movie. So I still got another movie.
And I really, what really chaps my ass, whatever.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's a good one.
Is how he wants to make like episodes of Outside the Law. No, not Outside the Law. That's another movie we talked about today. Bounty Law, whatever the TV show within Once Upon a Time in the West is.
Yeah.
He wants to make 4 episodes of that. It's like, no one wants that. Don't do that. You really gonna do that? It's gonna be like his Vincent Vega or the Vega Brothers movie or Kill Bill Volume 3. He has all these interconnected movie ideas. He is the type of person, and I don't think his ego is as big as other people, but is still pretty big. He's the kind that really needs someone to be like, listen, calm down.
Yeah. Well, that's probably impossible to get him to calm down. But to me, I feel the same way about everybody wanting a Kill Bill 3. I'm like, it's nice to think about it, but I don't really need another Kill Bill movie. If he's gonna do a last movie, if we got only getting one more Tarantino movie, let's let it be something completely different than what he's done so far.
Exactly.
And but also, I just think that his movies, in my opinion on him as a filmmaker, is that as much as I love that he's so in love with film and that he brings that into his work, I find that that's all he's doing, though. He's like the biggest fanboy of all time, just ripping off his favorite movies. And whereas I guess that combination is what makes Tarantino, but does that really make him like a unique filmmaker, or does that just make him like another person that's like an Edgar Wright, who's very similar? Edgar Wright does the same thing. There's a lot of filmmakers that take, Kevin
I was just
Smith.
going to say the same thing.
Kevin Smith does the same thing.
If you look at your favorite filmmakers, chances are they are utilizing influences from the past and putting them into their films. And the more you learn about film history, the more you go back, watching older films, you notice that. I don't think it necessarily puts a less of a shine on the modern filmmakers, but it's very fascinating to see where they get their influences from, like directly.
I think where you start to see that luster fade is when you start to notice that these filmmakers never created their own style in the first place.
Yeah, it's almost like a mutation of a style. You know.
Exactly, and I'll give credit to Edgar Wright. An Edgar Wright movie is unmistakable. You can see that he has taken influences from other places and kind of made it his own. And I don't see that as much with Tarantino because it's just so much an amalgamation of all these other things, and he makes entertaining movies along the way. But dialogue does not make someone have a style. I think that he in himself, who is still a talented filmmaker, doesn't have the same ability to create his own thing that other people that do a very similar thing have.
Yeah, he's definitely more of a writer than a director.
Yeah, I mean he's talented without question, because it does take a lot of talent and a lot of ingenuity and a lot of ability to take those influences, repurpose them, retranslate them, maybe put your own little spin on them and make it good, make it really, really good. I give him credit for all of that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just, when I think about filmmakers that are giving me something I've never seen before in a modern day, I think about Paul Thomas Anderson, or I can think about where he's an art house style kind of filmmaker that he might touch on subjects that we might have seen before, but he typically can give it through a lens where he's focusing on things that we don't typically focus on, there's a lot of examples, but I have nothing against these filmmakers. Edgar Wright is like I said, I bring him up, but he's one of my favorites. But he's also a filmmaker that, like Dave said, he's very much tapping into something that's already been created and kind of giving it a modern lens. It's not necessarily him bringing his own flavor to it necessarily.
Exactly.
And that's where that's where my line is with Tarantino. Is I find his movies to be fun, and I even think some of them are I think Inglourious Basterds is maybe my favorite. People usually go to Pulp Fiction, but I really like Inglourious Basterds. But I think he's also just very much utilizing what he's seen before in a very unsubtle way. It's very in your face.
Yeah. His films are very. We talked about kind of aggressive filmmakers when we talked about Enter the Void, because I hadn't seen that film before, Dave, and I watched Enter the Void, and Gaspar Noé is such an aggressive, in-your-face filmmaker. He's trying to rattle you, and Tarantino's, I think, is trying to do that, but in a different way. He's trying to be showy. He's not trying to rattle you.
The thing
is
for a lot of people, maybe they don't look at what Tarantino's doing as being unoriginal because they don't know what it's talking about. They don't see the influences that, if you're somebody that's seen what the influences, we look at it. I of course I haven't seen everything he's seen, but
of course
typically I
don't think anyone has.
No, I don't. It might be maybe Martin Scorsese is the closest that gets to it, but but it's unless but most mainstream audiences, they don't know what the hell he's alluding to, and so they look at it as wow,
that's what makes it work.
Yeah, and that's what makes it work. And he's like, and then of course it shines a light on them films afterwards, which is great. But it's that's for us. It's okay, so he's just taking what he loves out of these other movies and just cut and pasting, and then of course making his scripts with his dialogue that kind of makes it its own thing. And we're talking. This has turned into a Tarantino podcast.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Ironically, I mean, just to bring it back to talk about boutique labels, a lot of the films that he's utilizing that haven't been seen by people is because a lot of those films weren't available to be seen by the masses. And now with boutique labels, you're getting all of these kung fu films from Golden Harvest and the Shaw Brothers from the 70s and 60s and the 80s. You're getting, Lady Snowblood was put out by Criterion, which of course was a big influence on Kill Bill and all of those things. So the boutique labels are kind of, if anything, doing him a little bit of a disservice because they're pulling the veil.
And of course,
away.
Django got put out by Arrow.
And then now now you can see a lot of spaghetti westerns and things like that are more available now.
Yeah.
But
going
I think,
back to the Arrow slate.
Yeah, going back to Arrow. Speaking of,
Yeah.
I don't know, pulling back the veil, if you will. We'll talk about Edge of Sanity. Now, This is a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde adaptation starring Anthony Perkins, of all people, which in and of itself got me interested to watch it. And once again, this is another film that you can stream on YouTube right now if you want to. It's not in great quality, probably maybe, a lower grade DVD quality.
480 maybe.
Yeah, it may have been 360.
If that.
It may have been 360.
Maybe
360p, not great. And this is a film, like I said, starring Anthony Perkins, and it's another one of those movies where, science is being manipulated in a way, and it's being utilized wrong, and a monstrous effect happens because of it. It's the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde story in the classic sense. And it's actually a period piece, so it takes place, I think, in the late 19th century, around when the actual, real story takes place. And what is interesting is he's mixing, like, cocaine and, like, a sedative or something, and that's how he comes up with this concoction.
Yes.
They never mix uppers and downers. No one told him.
If it's an 80s movie, they definitely are mixing cocaine.
Yeah, he's trying to create actually, I think they're trying to create like an aesthetic or something. Yeah. And he ends up creating just this thing that turns him into this sex-crazed maniac, Jack the Ripper. He's literally like Jack the Ripper, and he's killing
prostitutes. But what happens in the movie?
Yeah.
My joke just completely flatlined. It's all right. No, it's fine. It's fine. That's what podcasts are all about, taking risks.
Yes. You took a weird time to be a stand-up man. God.
I know.
I know. No, I'm just kidding. But what were you saying, Dave?
Oh no, I was just making a joke that made it sound like Anthony Perkins was doing that, and then he also made a movie called Edge of Sanity.
Yeah, oh, gee.
No, but and if I'm making jokes, I'm also going to say maybe cocaine was not supposed to be in the movie, but the on-set cocaine got mixed in with the props department.
Yeah,
they just had
could have been. It
could have been.
Yeah, and it's a very raw, like brutal, like sexual film as well as violent film, because he's murdering people pretty ferociously, but beforehand he's becoming this possessed, like sex crazed maniac. And there's a whole backstory as to why it's happening, and childhood trauma and things like that starts off the film in a rather aggressive way. And yeah, if you ever want to see Anthony Perkins take that Norman Bates and kind of the reverse Norman Bates, where all of it's out in the open, that's kind of this type of movie. It's a wild film. And if you see the poster for this movie, the crazy, demented look, zombie-like effect on him is what he turns into. Yeah, I've never heard of this movie until now, Edge of Sanity. 1989, so it was towards the later
good
part
year.
Of his life and career.
Good year.
Oh, was it a good year? Oh, what happened that year, Stephen?
Andrew likes to say it's a good year when it's his birth year, and so I'm saying that now. It's a good year.
It comes back around, I guess. It comes back around, and so yeah, that's Edge of Sanity. Just what a film.
Well, yeah, it is what it is, a film, and also a film is Demona or Demona. Demonia.
I think it's
Demonia.
Okay.
Talk about a wild sexual film, and just odd film in general. This is
it's from Lucio Fulci.
Yeah, it's a late film by Lucio Fulci. I think it's from 1990.
1990.
Is it 1990?
Oh,
yeah, wow, 1990. Yeah, so it's the later part of his career, not exactly his, the prime years of his career, and you can kind of tell while watching the movie. It's Stephen, I know you've seen this film as well.
Yeah, I watched it. Yeah, it's different. It's it's about you got like a nun or whatever. She gets it's kind of got almost like a witch's vibe to it, where a witch gets slain years ago, and then some kind of curse gets left behind And then so like it's like in this case it's like more like a religious thing where it's like a nun and she gets she's a demonic nun and she gets crucified, and then 500 years later it's the ghost of her kind of coming back and like killing people. All these this archaeological team that uncovers the tomb of where she was killed, and like just shit. People start getting killed. I mean, it's
one of the characters ends up starting to get slowly possessed by one of the I think they call them the Satanic Sisters or something. They were basically like crucified and burned, so they're like vengeful spirits trying to come back. They're unearthed, and that's the movie. And
it's not really the greatest of his films.
It's not great, Fulci. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's not Demons.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. Don't torture a duckling
I'm sorry.
or anything like that.
Demons? No, Demons is Demons Fulci?
I don't know.
No, Demons is. I think it's Umberto.
It's
Lenzi.
That's it. I don't know why I thought it was him.
Yeah, Lucio Fulci is Zombie or Zombie 2.
Zombie,
which is great.
I have some of the Blue Underground stuff. I have
City of the Living Dead.
House by the Cemetery is good. Dave,
I was wrong. Demons is Lamberto Bava.
That's it. That's
Mario
it.
Bava's son.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, The Devil's Honey, which has a Severin release. That's a movie.
Interesting saxophone scene in that.
A friend of mine let me borrow his Severin Blu-ray of that for me to watch. And I was like, yeah, this movie is basically a softcore adult film. That is exactly what this film is. But Lucio Fulci, of course, did The Black Cat. He did The Beyond. He's part of that whole generation of Italian horror giallo filmmakers and stuff like that. A legend, obviously a legend of his time, and a legend, in
our
cinema
hearts.
History. But this was one of his later work. A lot of people, whether they are a legend or not, they kind of falter maybe later on in their careers, or things aren't going as well.
And Tarantino, that's how it goes, man. That's what makes filmmakers interesting, is when they do bad things and good things. Okay,
let it go, Steven.
Sorry.
Let it go.
I just know he's going to listen to this, and he needs to hear it. Okay.
Yeah.
How many movies did Lucio Fulci make before he got to a bad one?
I know, right?
Yeah, it's like
Tarantino's got like a whole equation about it too. He talks about, he's like, for every bad movie, that means they're not going to watch 5 of your movies. It's like, what?
Not
what are you talking
really.
about?
I mean, Lucio Fulci by that point already had like a nearly 30-year career in filmmaking. So
Exactly.
But moving on from there, because I'm pretty sure many people know who Lucio Fulci is and all that stuff. Steven, where do you want? There's a film I did not get to see, and I don't know if anyone else. The Initiation of Sarah.
Initiation, yeah. I haven't seen it either.
It seems like another one of those. It was actually a made-for-TV horror film. Maybe that's directed by. I think it was directed by a Hammer director, Robert Day, and co-written by Tom Holland, who not the Tom Holland that we're used to seeing today.
Come on now.
A different Tom Holland.
The other one.
And this Tom Holland is.
Tom Holland Spider-Man wasn't born yet.
No, he wasn't. He's too young. But this Tom Holland, I think, was the writer of Fright Night, the original Fright Night from 1986. I think he also
Didn't he also write Cloak and Dagger?
Yes, that's the connection. That is the connection.
Damn. That's why we got Dave here.
Yes,
He's got
and he also, I think, he directed Child's Play as well.
That's a classic, of course.
Yeah, and he also directed Fright Night as well. So, but this film is like I said, TV horror film, and dealing with satanic rites and telekinetic powers and stuff like that. It's getting a new 2K restoration, as well as Edge of Sanity, which we didn't talk about. True Romance is a 4K. It's got a 4K restoration. Demonia is a 4K restoration, and I think Demonia may have been put out already by someone at some point.
Severin put it out.
Yes.
I have that disc on my shelf.
There it is.
That is unwatched. I have not watched it yet.
Okay. It did come. Yeah, it came out in August 25th of 2020, and I think there's a difference when it comes to the special features.
This Arrow set seems a little bit more stacked. Honestly,
Yeah, it's got 2 discs. So.
Oh, there you go.
And it folds out all fancy.
Fancy folds are always great.
Yeah,
it's kind of almost like
has...
that Guillermo del Toro set where it folds out like
Yeah.
yeah.
I wonder if that's going to get a 4K re-release. You're talking about Crimson?
No. The Criterion one with the 3 movies.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Arrow release of Crimson Peak.
Yeah. Well,
I'm hoping that gets a 4K re-release.
Yeah.
I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Because I kind of want it, but I don't want to hunt down that out of print version. But moving on from there, because nothing really much to say about that film, is something we talked about a little bit a couple months ago, Stephen, because I think it was teased, is the Rainer Werner Fassbinder Collection Volume 3. Now, I know we talked about it a little bit when we had Sister Hyde on, because she does all of the artwork for it. She told us that it was either coming or it was being announced soon. And this is the third collection of Rainer Werner Fassbinder films put out by Arrow. I don't know if this is their final set. It may be.
I feel like somewhere I saw somebody. I feel like I read somewhere that this is the last set.
I think I read that as well.
Yeah.
And
so yeah, this is that means we ended up getting a good almost 20 films or so, something like that. Out of these 3 volumes.
Well, the first 2, weirdly enough, contain everything from their old out-of-print Rainer Werner Fassbinder set, except Tenderness of Wolves. The only reason I have not bought any of them yet so far, of these new ones, is because I already have all the movies from that first set, aside from Tenderness of Wolves. So I'm very excited for Volume 3. My shelves are going to look weird having an unvolumed version and Volume 3, but hey, I'll have all the movies.
Yes. Yeah, and the only hesitation I've had with getting these sets is, Dave, I don't know if you're maybe thinking of this too. Could Criterion do their own complete or do their own collection of Rainer Werner Fassbinder in one set, like they've done with Bergman, Fellini, Agnes Varda? I feel like that's on the horizon. I don't know why.
It's possible. I mean, he lived 36 years and made 36 films. It's stranger things have happened.
Yes, they have.
Very true. And I don't think Criterion has the rights to everything, and I don't think obviously Arrow had the rights to everything as well. Because I think there's a lot of like TV movies that are just maybe lost or they just don't have the rights to. But whatever Criterion has, I think is all streaming on the Criterion channel, because that's where I watched a couple of these films. So whatever's up on there is what they could put in a box set, and it's quite comprehensive, and they've already put out so many individual releases of his work.
And I hate to say, I have to wonder though, is Criterion going to be like, well, Arrow already did this. I know it's in the UK. Do we want to just follow in their footsteps and put this out? But at the same time, there's no US release. So I don't know. It's definitely a decision I'm going to have to make before
and the reason I asked
June 13th.
Yeah, is because a lot of the some of the films in this set that Criterion has, like the crossovers, Criterion doesn't have them in HD, not even streaming. So I was just wondering, when will they make that upgrade, or if they do make that upgrade. But this set does have how many films, Steven? Looks like 2, 4, 6, 7?
Yeah.
7 films. And they range in terms of points in Rainer Werner Fassbinder's career. We talked about him a lot when we talked about the other 2 sets. And, his work was predominantly done in the late 60s through the 70s, because I believe he passed away in early 1980s. And so all of his work he did so much work in such a short amount of time, and so much of it is so fantastic. Yet again, another really unique director, and he mixed genres in so many different ways. The early part and the middle part and the end of his career are all rapidly different.
Well, I was going to say, I did end up watching one of these movies.
Okay, which one?
And Fear of Fear.
I watched that one too.
Yeah, and the reason I watched it was because I saw that Sister Hyde said, I think she said this was her favorite of this set, if I'm remembering correctly. And so I went on to Criterion Channel and watched this, and yeah, it's great. It's this woman who's like a middle class wife who's staying at home, taking care of kids, and just kind of slowly starts to lose her mind. And her husband's kind of like not really there, like he's there but he's not there, like it's very, it kind of makes me think of that movie a little bit. What was the recent film from that had Charlize Theron in it, and she was the mom? what was it? It was.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I saw it in the theater. Tully.
Tully.
Yeah.
That came out a few years ago.
She was dealing with like postpartum depression and stuff. And
yeah. It kind of made me feel like that Tully was kind of an updated version of that in a way.
You know what I was actually thinking of, not really coincidentally, I was thinking of the movie with the 1995 film Safe, directed by Todd Haynes, starring Julianne Moore, where, it was a different scenario, but it was about a character who was, kind of dealing with some type of unexplainable psychosis, unexplainable mental thing going on, and it felt a lot like that. It felt also a lot like John Cassavetes' A Woman Under the Influence, which I think would have come out around that same time, starring Gina Rowlands, and just a woman just constantly dealing with some type of existential, unexplainable issue that dealing with women specifically in a domestic setting of the time. And it was a really Fair Affair is really, really interesting and good. And you kind of see the world in which they're in doesn't take them seriously. And I think that was a very big social commentary about, society in general. And I think society now as well. I mean, things haven't really changed all too much in the last century when it comes to certain social things.
And I was going to say, Dave, have you seen any of the films? Yeah.
No. These are all untreaded territory for me, I think. Let me just do one more double check. Nope, I have not seen any of these. So this is all exciting for me. This is the kind of thing that I love to buy, to blind buy a set from a director that I like of films that I've not seen. So Criterion, if you're going to put out a new thing, make it 4K so I don't feel like I'm buying things twice.
Or at least tell us before we start buying start buying these from other companies.
Give me a heads up.
Give me a heads up. Call me.
Slide into my DMs. Let me know what's going on, and I won't tell anyone. I promise.
So this set goes right along with their first two volumes. Stephen, I believe if you line them all up facing you, they create kind of a whole Fassbender mural. I think Sister Hyde talked about that when she was on. And of course, like we said, she did the artwork for all of it, and these are really good releases. And like Dave said, they did release all of these in one giant set several years ago, and now they're kind of just paring them out, similar to what they're doing with their Giallo sets. Like they have the red Giallo set, the yellow Giallo set. I think those are re-releases or repackagings of individual releases into one box, and this is kind of like the opposite. It's like one box into individual releases. But there's a lot of special features on each disc as well. So it's definitely worthwhile. If you're a Fassbender fan, if you're not a Fassbender fan, these sets are probably great primers, and it gives you a great taste of a cross-section of his work, because I watched The American Soldier, and this is actually one of his early films that's in the Criterion Eclipse set of him. And it's really, really fantastic.
Cool. All right. Well, if there's nothing, Dave, anything else to add on Arrow Slate there?
No. I will say that if you are new to Fassbender and need one set to start with, I would say probably Volume 2 is the best place to start, because it has Fear Eats the Soul, Fox and His Friends, Marriage of Maria Braun. That would be my recommendation. Very, very, very interesting, and knowing that it's creating one big mural is making me regret having bought that set many moons ago. But hey, what are you going to do?
What are you going to do, man?
Right.
I'm going to do. You know what I'm going to do? Sometimes when I feel like something needs to be in a box set, I told Aaron Jew this recently. I was like, I'm just going to start making my own box sets. I'm just going to start creating my own boxes, and I'm going to make damn box sets, and they're going to all look beautiful. I'm just going to start getting creative over here, but. All right. Well, when it comes to the show, that's it. One more thing I'd like to talk about real quick, just to throw it in there before we close it out. The Oscars.
Oh, you're bringing this up? All right.
How do we feel about the Oscars experience this year? Dave, what do you think about how was the Oscars experience for you this year?
Well, I didn't watch them, and I missed out on a very viral moment, which I did catch online. No, I don't have cable. My antenna does not pick up ABC, which made it very hard to watch it. And I did a bad job of catching up with all of the Academy Award-nominated movies this year, which meant that I didn't really have that much of a dog in the fight, sadly. I don't know. I think the Oscars are really struggling for viewership. And who knows? Maybe they unintentionally got a lot more people to tune in next year.
I'm actually glad that Dave brought that up. This is a much longer discussion for a completely different show, but I'm just saying, if they're trying to get a younger audience and get a more massive audience, why isn't this available to stream to people who, like Dave, don't have cable anymore? Why isn't that an option? That's a lot of baffling decisions. I mean, the Oscars are what they are these days. I mean, a lot of people don't care about them. They don't really, I don't think, have a huge impact on the state and quality of film or anything like that. But I think Stephen and I talked about it a little bit, like the next day. It was a show in every sense of the word. It was all over the place, just all over the place.
It's one of in the sense of like the production, it was pretty sloppy. There's like things where like awards, I mean, because they of course they pre-recorded a lot of the awards and tried to insert them throughout the show. It was clunky. So jarring. Like, I mean, it was a sloppy show.
And ironically, a lot of the awards were for films that were actually the popular films. Like Dune won a bunch of the technical awards, and a lot of those they had given out beforehand. Like sound and, of course, cinematography. Cinematography was during the show. Editing was pre-show. Also, Hans Zimmer, who's probably pretty well known, won an Oscar for the first time in 30 years, but no one really knew about it because it happened pre-show. It's like, like Steven said, it was a very sloppy production. Things were just so unwell produced,
the cherry
and
on
that
top
was not even like the viral moment which Dave alluded to. Even before then, and removing that, it was a bit of a mess. And I don't really care that it was a mess. Like, it has no real effect on me personally. I know a lot of people are very serious fans of award show and award show seasons and all that kind of stuff. I do watch all the movies, just to be in on it. I do have a fear of missing out when it comes to these things. And a lot of the films that do get nominated for awards are very good movies. Jane Campion's Power of the Dog, I think, is a great film, and Drive My Car is another great film. So there's a lot of fantastic movies that do end up getting award considerations, and many that don't.
Yeah,
Stephen?
It was wow. Yeah, I don't know if what happened in this show was on purpose or not. Some people got debates about Will Smith slapping Chris Rock as being a joker. Or was some crazy accident, but
there's a lot of hotly debated things.
I don't want to make this a gossip show.
There's reasons for and against, and all of the above, and kind of don't particularly have an opinion.
I don't either.
Valid,
I don't want to keep the conversation going too long.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's kind of
it made the night. It was the most entertaining part of the show. I can say that.
I mean, if their goal was to get more people to talk about it, they got more people to talk about it.
Yeah, but I'm happy for a film like Coda winning. Though I don't know if I would have chose it to win Best Picture. But it's nice to see a film like that had that subject matter. Get relevance, and I'm sure a lot more people are going to go check it out now. But anything else, Dave, before we head out?
No, I
know
think
you didn't
that's
watch it. So
everything.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I can't add too much context there. I do really like Drive My Car, and I still need to see Power of the Dog. That's something that I've just been neglecting to see, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, Dave, we very much appreciate you coming on, talking physical media with us and sharing some of your story. And we hope you had a good time.
I had a wonderful time. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Now, where can people chat with you if they want to chat with you?
Mostly on Twitter. I'm there all the time. You can find me there at Cinema versus Dave. That is Cinema VS Dave.
Awesome. Andrew, where can you be found?
You can find me also on Twitter at Kebzilla06, as well as our YouTube channel, Chasing Labels.
And you can find me on Facebook, Stephen Billings, or at all the other Chasing Labels pages, whether it be Twitter or Instagram. You can also follow me at Letterboxd at Chasing Labels. And you can find the audio for the podcast on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and other places. Thanks again for listening. And hey, keep on watching them movies.
I know I will.